Good afternoon. The Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Present.
Alderwoman Saunier. Alderman Aldrich.
Present.
Chair Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Saunier. We have 6 present. We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Alderwoman Saunier has requested excuse today for necessary absence, so I will make a motion that we excuse Alderwoman Saunier.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Aye.
Alderman Aldrich.
Aye.
Chair Narayan.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
All right, with that, we've excused Alderwoman Saunier. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, January 16th, 2025.
So move. Second.
All right, it's been moved by Alderwoman Keys, seconded by Alderman Aldridge that we approve the minutes. I'll request previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll?
Objection. All
right, with that, we have approved the minutes, and we are going to take up our board bills for review. Alderwoman Velasquez has indicated she has a time constraint, so we will lead off with her.
Give me one moment. I wasn't sure of a presentation. Give me one moment to pull up your presentation.
Sure thing.
No, you gotta get one. Sun in my bed, feeling me softly.
All right, are we ready to?
Please proceed.
All right, thank you, Chairman. So this is really a group effort. Obviously, I'm here to talk about Board Bill 170, but Board Bills 169, 170, 71 are a suite of bills really designed to address vacancy, and they're really a response to Proposition V, which voters overwhelmingly passed this November with about 80% of the vote. And what we heard voters and the people of St. Louis saying is that we want you to tackle vacant properties, which are all over the city, which is why myself and my colleague Alderman Boyd from the 13th and Alderman Browning from the 9th really wanted to show solidarity from across the city. We've got South, North, and Central here talking about vacancy, and all of these bills are complementary related together, but obviously I'm here to talk about Board Bill 170. So can we flip to the next slide, Madam Clerk? So why we are increasing fines and fees, you can go to the next slide. So again, what we saw with why we passed Proposition 23% of properties are vacant and abandoned. And so you all know it as much as I do, that comes with property risks, comes with health risks, it reduces our tax base, it reduces quality of life. So that is why we wanted to file these bills. Next slide, please. So again, why do this? 79.8% of the voters voted to remove the fine, the $500 cap for fees related to vacant and deteriorated properties. We know that, as you'll see in some of these later presentations, we have $25 fines and things like that on the books, that those fees and fines have not kept up with inflation, and they clearly have not been effective. And when we started doing some digging, there's a cross group of city employees and SLDC and groups like Legal Services that actually calculated that there are about 14,000 properties with outstanding code violations that total about $21.6 million in estimated back fines and fees, and more than $2.7 million in back taxes. So clearly we have some work to do in not only enforcing the laws, but increasing these, putting more teeth into what we're doing, and really prioritizing and giving both the building division, and we'll hear from the problem properties division, some more tools to get the job done. So I'm talking about Board Bill 170, and I will have a few amendments, but I'm just going to go through a quick overview here. What Board Bill 170 does is it really creates two new fines. The first fine is creating a fine for unsecured or vacant properties, which starts at $500, and then subsequent fees and fines will be $1,000. So again, we're trying to, these are for non-owner occupied vacant properties, but really trying to focus on the repeat bad actors, right? And that's who we're trying to get to move into compliance. So that's the new fine, the first new fine. The second new fine is for unpermitted demolitions. I think we've heard stories about this all over, where buildings blow up and the bricks just magically appear in nice little piles around the building without permits. This is what we want to stop. So this is a new fine that will fine the property owner $30,000 or half of the appraised value of the property, whichever is greater. So again, we're trying to seek this as a deterrent, and we want to give our city workers the tools that they need to stop this from happening. So enforcement, the enforcements are extra fines, and then when we'll get to Alderman Boyd's bill, which is 171, we'll talk about creating new mechanisms that will help us better enforce these fines. And one very effective way is to align our city law with state law and be able to put liens and special tax bills associated with these properties. Now, these people with the properties, and that's very important, but again, to better enforce what we're doing so we can reduce vacancy across the city. So another new key feature of Board Bill 170, so the Vacant Building Initiative Fund has already existed. It's been in existence since 2010. And so what we're doing is because we're creating new fines, we are adding those new fines to the Vacant Building Initiative Fund. And then another new feature of this bill is we are splitting what goes into that fund, and half will stay in the Vacant Building Initiative Fund. The other half, this is new, will go to CDA, in which CDA will create grants that are related to for blight and vacancy, so we can give those grants to community groups who want to do different things to address blight and vacancy. And so I'm going to go into the amendments now. One of the amendments is amendment number 1, which should be in your drive, and this is that first bullet point there. And it amends the start date to September 1st, 2025 to allow for the hiring and training of new employees. We are amending it because as you may hear from Commissioner Ware, who's here, when we talk to the building division who supports this bill, they want a little bit more time to implement it. So I think the first bill had 180 days. I'm sorry, it was 120 days, and we're striking that out, and we're changing it to September 1st. So with that, I'm going to pause and ask the committee if we can adopt Amendment 1 to Board Bill 170.
Do you want to speak on the amendment?
That's what I just did.
Okay, okay.
This amendment is, and it's the first bullet point up there, this amendment is changing the effective date, and you'll see these on all the bills. At the request of the building division, we are moving it from 120 days to
Got it.
starting on September 1st.
All right. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to Board 70.
I'd like to make a motion, oh,
All right, Alderman Keys has made the motion. Do I hear a second?
second,
All right.
previous roll.
All right, it's been moved, it's been seconded. There's been a request for previous roll. Are there any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, we've adopted amendment number 1. We now have in front of us Board Bill number 170 as amended.
I'm just going to go through some of my other amendments now since we're here. We have Amendment 2, which should be in your drive, and that is amending board, this page 2, line 1, beginning on page.
Sorry, I don't mean to, but Mr. Narayan, did you say Amendment 1 to Board Bill 170 as amended? But I think it should be Amendment 1 to Board Bill 170. Am I correct?
Yes, it should be, and now we have in front of us Board Bill number 170 as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Amendment 2 to Board Bill 170 as amended is just clarifying it after the words non-owner occupied. We're striking out the following words, non-owner occupied, and provisions relating to vacant and deteriorated properties. That just makes it clear legally. So with that, I'd ask the committee to adopt Amendment 2 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
I make a motion, we adopt amendment number 2 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
Second.
Previous roll.
All right, there's been a motion, and it's been seconded, and there's been a request for previous roll. Are there any objections to previous? Hearing no objections, we have adopted amendment number 2 to Board Bill number 170 as amended. Please proceed.
Great. I'm going to go straight on to Amendment number 3 to Board Bill 170 as amended, amending, beginning on page 2, line 8, after the words Chapter 25.01.020, Section 119.3.1, secured buildings, insert the following words, and Section 121.6, which refers to vacant building maintenance. And this amendment, again, was clarifying it legally. I believe this one was a suggestion from the city councilor's office that also looked at the bill. And again, just wanted to make sure that everything is dotting the i's and crossing the t's legally, making it clear.
All right, is there a motion to adopt amendment number 3?
I'd like to make a motion, we adopt amendment number 3 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
Second.
Previous roll.
All right, it's been moved, seconded, and there's been a request for previous roll. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we've adopted amendment 3. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to go on to my final amendment of the day. Actually, no, it looks like I have another
I
one.
think
so.
you have 2.
Second to last one, Amendment number 4 to Board Bill number 170 amended. This one I do want to talk about, and if you have questions, we have Sergeant McLaughlin, the St. Louis Police Department, and the Problem Properties Unit. And this one, it's starting at page 3, lines 9 through 10. It's removing the strikeout of the following words, upon conviction thereof, and be punished by not more than 10 $500 fines or imprisonment not exceeding 90 days, both such fine and imprisonment. And, you know, the Problem Properties Unit, especially officers like Sergeant McLaughlin, they're out in the field. The request to change this language was based on wanting to make sure they have the enforcement ability, and that when they're doing their job and knocking on doors on the street, that they have this behind them. So, in a spirit of collaboration, we wanted to make sure that we give them the enforcement tools that they need. And so we changed around the language to add this amendment. I'm going to pause and see does anybody have any questions for the sergeant while he's here?
Are there any questions regarding amendment number 4? Doesn't seem like there's any questions.
All right, then I would ask the committee to consider adopting amendment number 4 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt amendment number 4?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt amendment number 4 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
Second.
Previous row.
All right, it's been moved, seconded. There's been a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous? Hearing none, we've adopted amendment number 4 to Board Bill number 170 as amended. Alderwoman, please proceed.
All right, we have the 5th and final one, and this one was one that came in from Commissioner Ware, and we're very grateful. It is beginning on page 2, line 17, and it is inserting that this provision should not apply to any accessory building as defined in Chapter 26.08.020 accessory building. And that is simply, and actually Commissioner Ware gave us a great example of a garage that caved in, right? This past snowstorm, that it's an accessory, building and not a primary building. And after talking it over with a couple folks, including Peter Hoffman, we thought it was important to add just to clarify that we want to make that distinction between primary and accessory buildings. So we were able to amend it here. So with that, I ask that the committee consider adopting amendment number 5 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt amendment number 5 to Board Bill 170 as amended.
Second.
Previous row.
It's been moved, seconded, and there's been a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, we have adopted amendment number 5 to Board Bill number 170 as amended. So I think
Those are all my amendments, Chairman. Thank you.
now we have the Board Bill as amended in front of us. Please proceed.
Thank you. So with that, I'm obviously here to answer any questions. We did include a fiscal note in the bill. I want to just talk about that briefly for a minute because technically, no, you do not need a fiscal note just to simply raise the fines, but we thought it was important after discussion, especially with the building division. And we've heard obviously a lot as alder people, the need for enforcement, and the only way enforcement happens if you have the people to do the enforcing. So we have included the estimate for 4 positions attached to this bill, 2 in the building division, 2 in the city councilor's office. When I previously mentioned that they did that study to find the $21.6 million in outstanding fines and fees, an ad hoc group collected about $250,000 last year in trying to recover some of those fees. This was not anybody's primary job. It was not anybody's first priority. And so essentially, we believe that if we had a few people focus specifically on this and on addressing those outstanding fines, it would pay for itself. And I believe that last year's sort of test pilot, ad hoc test pilot proved that because they did recover $250,000, which would essentially pay 1 year for these positions. But we know that there's more than an estimated $20 million in outstanding fees and another nearly $3 million in outstanding taxes. So I wanted to clarify that. And with that, I am either open to questions. I know we've got some public testimony. But that concludes my presentation.
Sure. Then before I open it up to the committee to see if there's any questions before we hear from the public, Madam Clerk, will you please add me as a co-sponsor to 170 as amended?
Noted.
And yeah, I think this is a bill certainly on the right path. These empty buildings are not great in any neighborhood. Nothing good is happening in empty buildings. So I appreciate your work on this. Alderman Oldenburg, do you have any questions at this point?
I do not. Thank you.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any questions at this point?
No questions. Thank you for your work on it.
Alderman Keys, any questions?
No questions, but I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Noted.
Alderwoman, you don't have any questions for yourself.
I do, but not.
Well, we're not going to get into those today. But Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I do have just one quick one. Do the current fines and fees from the buildings that, I guess, the building division fine, it goes to the building division general revenue?
Yes, it's split up. Some goes to general revenue. I don't know if you want to sort of, it goes to a few different places, correct? But
Yeah, absolutely.
Please proceed, Commissioner.
Thank you. Some of the fines right now are split up that we collect. They go to the new.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. Will you be swearing him in?
Oh, I'm
Sure,
sorry.
yeah. Commissioner, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give is true to the best of your ability?
Absolutely.
All right, please proceed.
I'm sorry. Some of the fines collected are being diverted to the Impact Tenants Fund, which annually goes down to the comptrollers and then is forwarded to the Department of Health and Human Services. That's a new ordinance that was passed recently. Some of the fines are kept and they generally go back into general revenue.
So with this one, will we be, now those fines would half go to CDA and half would go to the vacancy collaborative. So will we not be putting those to the impacted tenants fund?
Alderman, right now, we're working with the comptroller about how to selectively separate our fines to go to the proper locations. We have the Impact Tenants Fund, and we want additional fines to go to these two locations, yes.
Okay, so we will keep in the, making sure that some of the fines will go to the impacted tenants fund.
Absolutely.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Commissioner. All the questions I have, please add me as a co-sponsor.
Noted.
Make a motion that we embank Board Bill 170 as amended.
Second.
Previous roll.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we make Board Bill number 170 as amended in bank. There's been a request for previous roll. Are there any objections to previous roll? Hearing no objections, Board Bill number 170 as amended is in bank in committee.
great, well, I don't have anything left in my presentation. I know that we have a few people here to testify. So,
Sure, yeah, we can certainly hear from on this and give you an opportunity to close.
and would you like to hear from
Oh, sure,
President
sure.
McLaughlin and
Yeah,
Commissioner
yeah.
Ware first?
Anyone who you have as part of your presentation, certainly. Yep.
The Building Division does support the Alderwoman's Board Bill 170. We think it's going to be a helpful tool in battling all of this vacant, vandalized property throughout the area, trying to deal with a lot of these owners that seem less than cooperative. We're trying to maintain their own property. So the only thing that we caught that the Alderwoman spoke about a moment ago was trying to separate the primary structures on the parcel separate from these garages and accessory structures, and that's been taken care of. So the Building Division is very comfortable with this bill.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for the commissioner? All right, doesn't look like anyone's got any questions for you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And if you could just state your name for the record.
John McLaughlin.
All right, and do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give is true to the best of your ability?
I do.
All right, please proceed.
So I want to clarify one thing. I am retired from the police department, but I do still coordinate and head the problem property unit process with this problem property officers of the Metropolitan Police Department as well as the city councilor's office. So I'm a program manager in the building division, and that's one of my main duties. So with that said, I want to tell you that when I was with the police department, my job was, I was the supervisor of that unit. And when I see bills like this, I get excited because you're filling up our toolbox again. You're giving us things that we can use to hold problem property owners accountable. There's a lot of things that we hit brick walls on, and vacancies are brick walls for us, so, as they stand right now. Every neighborhood has a building that affects them, and we know that. And it's a heavy lift for city services to deal with these things. The building division, the city councilor's office, problem property officers, and we all are dealing with limited resources So when we get things like this to help us do our job and give us tools to move forward and try to hold these people accountable, I am extremely grateful for all your work on this. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Sergeant McLaughlin? I know you were a sergeant when you retired.
Was.
We'll keep that title unless you'd rather be referred to as Mr. Any questions? Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, please proceed.
I thank you, Sergeant McLaughlin, retired Sergeant McLaughlin, Director, any title that you have. I just want to tell you that I share in your excitement as well. So seeing you here to testify on it encourages us even more. I want to thank you for always being so responsive in dealing with these needs in our community. Some of these most vulnerable communities are targeted by these bad actors with these vacant buildings. So I thank you for the work that you do, even when I feel like you've been up against a brick wall, you don't give up. And so that encourages us to not give up. So thank you for this legislation. Thank you for being in support and for all the work you do. And just let us know whatever other tool you need so that we can get that one for you as well.
Good. Thank you very much. And we have a great team. Everybody works very hard. City Councilor's Office, building inspectors, Health Department, problem property officers. And we're lucky to have those resources. So thank you.
Thank you to all of them as well.
Anything further for Mr. McLaughlin? All right. Then do we have public testimony on this?
I have in support Mr. Peter Hoffman.
All right, Mr. Hoffman.
That's nice.
He's got fans.
They happen all the
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is true to the best of your ability?
It is.
All right, you have 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Peter Hoffman. I am a 6th Ward resident, and I manage a nonprofit legal aid office in the city's 14th Ward. My entire legal practice is dedicated to supporting neighborhoods to reduce, prevent, and combat vacant and abandoned property. First, I want to talk about Board Bill 170. I'm here in support, maybe accepting amendment number 4 to that bill, but the existing code treats unpermitted demolitions in unsecured buildings the same as all other code violations currently. We know that these code violations cause the most harm to cities. Unpermitted demolitions jeopardize public health and safety and threaten our historic housing stock. Unsecured properties are the situs of innumerable illegal activities. They contribute to increased public health risks to the public safety, and to the first responders who are called to deal with the dangers. Board Bill 170 establishes 2 new fines addressing 2 of the most serious violations of the building code: unpermitted demolitions and unsecured vacant properties. Board Bill 170 also dedicates resources, the proceeds of those fines, towards vacant property enforcement and allows a portion of those funds to be available for grants to community partners to help prevent and reduce vacant and abandoned property. I do think there are some practical limitations to being able to jail owners of these properties. More often than not, properties are owned by LLCs, out-of-state owners, and I think practically there's some limitations to be those jail. So that would be my only exception to amendment number 4, but other than that, I entirely support Board Bill 170, and thank you all for your work.
Thank you.
Question?
Next, we have Mr. Charlie Hinderlitter.
I'm gonna have to bring fans.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give is true to the best of your ability?
I do.
All right, 3 minutes. Please proceed.
All right, we're grateful to Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Velasquez, and Alderman Browning for bringing forward Board Bills 169, 170, and 171. St. Louis Realtors is here to testify in support of all 3 pieces of legislation. Vacancy is a priority issue for us. We know this is a challenge the city is dealing with across the city, but particularly in disinvested communities. We think this is an issue that requires both carrots and sticks, and we're thrilled to see that we have local and state entities that are bringing carrots to the table, whether that's CDA, whether that's state tax credits. We have more of these carrots available, and now we think it's important for the sticks to be there too, so that we can incentivize the behavior that we want to see and bring these properties back to life. We know we have an affordable housing issue, and we have just a housing shortage, not just in St. Louis, but across the country. If we can bring these vacant and abandoned buildings back to life, that strengthens communities, and that gives people a place to live, and we think that's great for the housing market in St. Louis. So we're very grateful for these pieces of legislation. We're glad they're compliance-focused, and we think they'll do great things for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and under oath, Peter Hoffman's awesome.
Anyone further?
No.
Do we have any written testimony on 170?
We had one written comment, and that was put in the drive already.
All right. If anyone wants
Sorry.
to view
I'm
that.
sorry, Chair. I have Dave Sweeney online.
Oh, looks like we have Sweeney on the line. I can barely see him.
Yeah, tiny.
We see him now.
Yeah, you know his face is there. I know it's him. All right, Dave, could you do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is true to the best of your ability?
I do.
All right, you have 3 minutes. Please proceed.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Billups, for covering me there. I come behind Charlie Hinderleiter and speak on behalf of the St. Louis Realtors Association and want to thank the sponsors of all three bills. And the realtors were very happy to support Prop V, both with membership and financially. And we're glad that due to the passage of Prop V, that this legislation is able to occur and continue to want to be a good partner with the city. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, did Alderwoman Velasquez step away? So
She sure did.
Browning's taking over for her. So Alderman, please proceed.
Thank you. Alderwoman Velasquez had a bill signing that she needed to go to, so I'm going to take over here, and I'm going to start off by asking to be added as a co-sponsor because I should have been, but want to make sure that I am a co-sponsor on Board Bill 170.
Noted.
And with that, I think you've received all the information you needed. I appreciate the committee sponsoring this in bank. This is a really good piece of legislation. All three of them are. And with that, I just ask for your favorable consideration.
All right, thank you. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to pass Board Bill number 170 as amended out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous row.
All right, well, I'll make the motion.
I make the motion that we make the motion that we pass Board Bill 170 as amended with a due pass recommendation.
All right, it's been moved, and then
I'll
Alderwoman second.
And previous row.
Been a request for previous roll. Any objection to previous roll? All right, with that, Board Bill number 170 is out with a due pass recommendation. Would you guys like to take up 169 or 170 next? I know there's a
171, please.
Oh, excuse me, 171. Perfect. I know there was an order of operations here that I've been told.
Thank you. First, I'd like to add amendments to 171.
All
You have
right.
them in front of you.
So yes, we have those amendments in front of us.
Okay, Amendment 1 to Board Bill 171, we have in Section 4, page 5, line 21 through 22, page 5, line 12, and after the word Section 4, effective date, and that's where this chapter shall become effective 120 calendar days from the date of this bill. And so it will be in effect, become effective September 1st, 2025.
All right, that seems very straightforward. Does anyone have any questions about amendment number 1? All right.
I'd like to make a motion we adopt amendment number 1 of Board Bill 171.
Second.
Previous row.
All right, it's been moved, seconded, and there's been a request for previous roll. Any objection to previous? Hearing no objection, we've adopted amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 171. Alderwoman, please proceed.
Amendment number 2 to the Board Bill 171 to amend Board Bill, said Board Bill, page 3, line 9 through 11 as follows. The beginning on page 3, line 9, after the words, the cost of demolition, strike out the following words, repair, board up, or clean up, as well as the cost of police security escort if provided during the demolition, repair, board up, or cleanup shall be certified by the building commissioner and insert in lieu thereof to read its words or figure as follows: repair, board up, security measures, or cleanup, as well as the cost of police security escort if provided during the demolition, repair, board up, security measures, or cleanup shall be certified.
All right. Does anyone have any questions regarding amendment number 2?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt amendment number 2 to Board Bill 161 as amended. 171 as amended.
Second.
Previous row.
All right. It's been,
Objection of previous roll.
oh,
I just
all right.
want
There has been an objection. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
I'm sorry, that was 14, and who seconded 11?
Uh-huh.
And it was an objection?
And then the
Gonna call
Alderman
roll.
from the 11th objected to previous roll.
Alderman Odenberg?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard? Alderwoman Keys?
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez? Alderwoman Sanier? Alderman Aldrich?
Pass.
Chair Narayan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez? Alderman Aldrich?
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
All right. With that, we've sustained the motion to adopt amendment number 2 to Board Bill number 171 as amended. Alderwoman, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Board Bill 171, I am totally excited about this bill because this is an issue I have been addressing for years, that we have the absentee landlords or owners that do not repair or take care of these properties. It causes an impact in our communities, and it also causes property value to go down in those communities. So a lot of these communities were once vibrant communities that had beautiful homes, and so people have moved out because of the people that are in those, that are just letting those properties sit there. So I ask for your favorable consideration in regards to Board Bill 171 as amended.
All right. Madam Clerk, will you please add me as a co-sponsor to Board Bill 171?
Noted.
And thank you for your work on this. I'll open it up to the committee for any questions, comments. Alderman Oldenburg.
No questions, no comments. Thank you for your work on this, Alderman.
All right. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Just again, I want to thank you for your work on this. You've been in the trenches in fights like this in your community for decades. So I share in your excitement for you, and I uplift and elevate all the work that you continue to do so. And I would also like to do this one, make the motion to pass this one, carry this one rather, in bank as well.
Second.
All right. It's been
Previous row.
It's been moved and seconded that we make this board bill in bank. There's been a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous? Hearing no objection, this is now in bank. We'll move to Alderwoman Keys.
I have no questions. Thank you. I'm glad that this is embanked.
Alderman Velazquez has stepped away. Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Alderwoman, for this legislation. Just a quick question, I guess, for Mr. Edware from the Building Division. Mr. Ed.
Commissioner, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this would take the fines and fees and turn them into a special taxing bill or lien. Kind of like talk about that a little bit, just for clarification to the general public of maybe what.
Yes, it helps with the collection method. What I like about the Alderwoman's bill is these costs can be either added to the annual real estate bill or if they want to, sent to the Office of the Comptroller to be pushed into the special tax bill. So we're taking multiple approaches on collection on that. That's good. The increased fines, of course, the fines that we charge now are decades old, those costs. So anything we can do to move forward, we're trying to go after a lot of these vacant, delinquent landowners is helpful for the Building Division. Unfortunately, as we all know, everyone in this room, a lot of these vacant buildings seem to be a magnet for crime. And anything we do is helpful. I think we're all in this together.
And it looks like Amendment 1, which was also adopted in Board Bill 170, the effective date sounds like necessary so that your department can make sure that the operations of maybe the process of either collecting these.
Yes, sir. We're making some adjustments now with the new short-term rental. We're making some adjustments with a lot of other new legislation that's come through. We're revising things up there. We're trying to hire personnel. We're trying to get everything kind of in systematic order to move forward with all of this.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. Like I said, I think it's good, good clarification for the general public. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And I would just ditto everything that the Alderwoman from the 10th said to the Alderwoman of the 13th on her leadership on vacancies in her ward and throughout the city. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and I do not have any questions at this point, so I will entertain a motion to pass Board Bill number 171 as amended out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass Board Bill 171 as amended with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
I'll request previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? All right, hearing no objection, you've passed Board Bill number 171 as amended out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And we'll take up 169 at this point.
Was there any public testimony on 171?
You know, if there's public testimony, sure.
Is there public testimony on 170 or 171? Excuse me.
He'll get it in the next one.
I
Yes.
apologize for that. Is there anyone else signed up?
The same Peter Hoffman and Charlie Hinderleader.
All right,
Yes, you could.
gentlemen, we can undo what we've done and get the okay.
Let's keep it rolling.
Okay, then let's move forward. Alderman, please proceed.
Thank you. This is the final piece of this trio of bills that we have introduced to strengthen the building division and our ability to enforce against delinquent or dilapidated and vacant properties. This board bill addresses administrative fines and fees. Right now, we have a condition where the first fine is $25 and the second fine is $50, and then there's no additional fines after that increase or attempt to get compliance. So these fines are outdated and insufficient to encourage absentee property owners to comply with the law. So we're trying to do modest increases and upping the first violation to $100, second violation to $250, and the third and all subsequent violations to $500. This brings these fines in line with the current economic realities and will encourage property owners to comply with the law. It's important to mention that this is about compliance. It's not about malicious penalties. We're not trying to make people hurt. And indeed, the goal here being compliance means that if they do get that property in compliance, the fine can be waived. And the building division always has that authority. So we are applying this to all violations under Chapter 25 of the Administrative Code. That includes items such as forestry and other building code violations. If the fines remain unpaid, they'll be pursued through collection methods, including liens or tax bill additions, such as the board bill we just passed, Board Bill 171 as amended. And as I mentioned, the building division can always waive those fines and fees in special circumstances. It's really important to note that these fines, when received, the revenue will go and be deposited in the impacted tenants fund. This is really important because it's about giving back towards making sure that people have a roof over their head and shelter from the storm, and making sure that at the end of the day, this is about people as much as it is about buildings. So we're very excited to present this bill to you today. I do have one amendment that should be in front of you. That is amendment number 1. And just like the other bills, we are changing the effective date to be September 1st, 2025.
All right. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 169.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 169.
Second.
Previous roll.
All right, it's been moved, seconded. There's been a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous? Hearing no objection, you've adopted amendment number 1, and we now have in front of us Board Bill number 169 as amended.
Thank you. With that, I'm happy to take any questions from the committee and hear from our public speakers.
All right. Madam Clerk, will you please add me as a co-sponsor to 169?
Noted.
You don't want to just embank it?
I'm sorry? Do you want to make a motion to embank it?
You have the floor, Mr. Chair.
Well, if there's a... Sure. I'll make a motion that we embank
Sharing the love.
Board Bill number 169.
Second. Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill number 169 is now in bank. Does anyone have any questions for the alderman before we hear from the... looks like Alderman Clark Hubbard has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I don't have any questions, but I did want to thank you, Alderman Browning, for bringing this forward. This is something that I have directly heard from constituents about, and also hear bad actors about. I've gotten thrown in my face that there's nothing, I'll pay that, and, you know, do what you want to do, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So thank you for putting, again, as was stated earlier, this additional tool in place for us to be able to hold them, hopefully now, more accountable than we ever have been able to do in the past.
All right. Does anyone else have any further questions? Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ditto the Alderwoman from the 10th, but also just want to clarify, and I appreciate you bringing this up, you know, in Board Bill 170, when the Alderwoman talking about the new fines, I want to be clear that those are 2 new fines that are being created for the Building Division to be able to have those funds go into CDA and also the vacancy. The funds that you're addressing are current, I don't know why I can't say that properly, but whatever, are what tools the Building Division already has, and we're increasing those fines, and those fines would then go to the Impacted Tenants Fund, which I think was a legislation that the Alderwoman from the 10th passed, and a lot of us passed at the board, of making sure that you know, we can help individuals. So just want to go on record to make that clarification and clear, and appreciate your leadership on it.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And I think, you know, the Impacted Tenants Fund, like I said, is a really crucial tool. But when we create these funds, sometimes we don't have ways to make sure that they're continuing to get more, that they can be effective. So this is really exciting to be able to get that money over to fund that, actually help people out. And as you said, this is a current tool they have, but the fines are laughably low to the point that they don't even get someone's attention. And so we're hoping to light a figurative fire underneath people so that they do something with the property, or they give it to someone who will do something. Otherwise, we see literal fires in these vacant properties. And so that's something we really want to address. And I also want to just say I really appreciate Alderwoman Velasquez and Alderwoman Boyd for their work on this. It's really notable that we have 3 alders from every part of the city bringing this before you, because as we noted, every single ward has an issue with vacant and dilapidated properties.
All right. Does anyone have anything further?
I'd like to...
Oh, we have public comment?
I just wanted to say that I'm very happy that the 3 of you came together to do this work. The problem properties across the city, and like you said, across the city, it really is a problem. Just this past week, we lost a very beautiful home over in the 11th Ward on Holly Street, which you're familiar with Holly Place. Those are some magnificent homes, and now to have lost one to fire, not sure of the circumstances at this point, but now we have to deal with a burned-out building. And so it's always a lot of work and heavy lifting to try to get those buildings taken care of. And, efforts have been made to contact the owners, so I've not been successful with that just yet. But I do want to make sure that I am telling the team thank you, in addition to Commissioner Ware and Officer McLaughlin, who have been very responsive. And I'm thinking that they probably have given the same kind of responsiveness to all of these alders when calling about various conditions of property. So, gentlemen, I thank you.
All right. With that, we can entertain a motion to
Public
pass-
comment.
I'm sorry? Oh, public testimony, yes. Jeez. All right. Please come forward.
To Peter Hoffman?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you have
If I
3
need to-
minutes. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. Peter Hoffman of Legal Services here in support of Board Bills 169 and 171. Though the fine increases or modesties taken together really represent a paradigm shift for the city's effort to address persistent nuisance properties through code enforcement, especially properties owned by willfully non-compliant and absentee property owners. These changes are necessary because the city's current system isn't working. Fines are too low to force nuisance property owners to action. Because the fines are too low, building inspectors frequently have to re-inspect over and over again these properties, issue repeat citations to compel compliance. That's inefficient, it's ineffective. The city's reliance on municipal housing court for enforcement is also futile for the worst nuisance property owners, and it fails to recoup the delinquent fines and fees that are owed to the city. The people who come to court are usually well-meaning and vulnerable residents who have taken time away from work to plead their case in front of a prosecutor and a judge. Meanwhile, large-scale corporations simply ignore the summons and face no repercussions for their actions. These proposed ordinances address those shortcomings. Board Bill 169 modestly increases administrative fines. This will require fewer re-inspections, increase the burdens on maintaining property in a nuisance condition, and reduce the burdens on the city's code inspectors. Board Bill 171 improves the city's collection methods for these increased fines. If it passes, administrative fines and city-borne costs to abate nuisance conditions or secure vacant properties can be converted to special tax bills and enforced as liens on the property. This recourse is not currently available through municipal court prosecution. It also gives the city greater leverage and discretion to negotiate compliance with owners who do not otherwise respond. Dedicated resources for collections and enforcement may be the most critical component of this legislation. I don't know if Alderwoman Boyd is still here or not. Truly effective code enforcement is going to require interdepartmental coordination, dedicated staff, and these ordinances are an essential addition to the city's ongoing effort to improve public health and safety in the neighborhoods most affected by vacancy and disinvestment. Again, here to support Board Bills 169, 170, and 171. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
I'm not sure if Charlie Hinderlitter still wanted, okay.
Okay.
That will be all.
Do we have any written testimony on it?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, please proceed.
Thank you. I don't want to close without mentioning my immense gratitude to Peter Hoffman and Legal Services of Eastern Missouri for giving us just invaluable advice on the path to pursue here. They do great work in our city. We're always grateful. And this is just another step forward in making sure that our city departments have the tools they need. So we're excited to give this to them and would appreciate all of your support.
All right. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to pass Board Bill number 169 as amended out with a due pass recommendation.
I move that we pass Board 169 forward.
As amended.
As amended.
Oh, so we just voted on the amendment?
No.
Okay.
The whole thing.
Okay.
So,
I'd like to make a motion, we pass Board Bill 169 as amended,
As amended.
with a due pass
with the
recommendation.
due pass
There
recommendation.
you go.
All right.
And I think Keys is
Second
my
that,
second.
Alderwoman?
I can second it.
All right.
Oh, look at us, tag team.
Request for
previous role.
All right. So it's been moved, seconded. There's been a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, we've passed Board Bill number 169 out of committee with pass recommendation. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Alderman Aldridge. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, we have resolution number 188 in front of us next. This,
Alderman Narayan, you are recognized on resolution 186.
188.
188? Oh, I'm looking at the notes. Yes, 188.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute.
There's all these amendments in front.
Yes.
Everywhere.
So resolution number 188 is one of the resolutions that was in front of us last week. And the use plan had not been on the city's website or on the Board of Aldermen website for the amount of time that the alderman from the 14th and the alderman from the 7th wanted to ensure that it was there for. It was on SLMPD's website, but we discussed it and just wanted to make sure that the general public had enough time to see it. So we pulled it back from the floor back to committee. Same story with resolution number 190, but we've heard from the police department about this, but just wanted to make sure that everything was where it needs to be.
All righty. We'll go in order of committee members and seniority. Alderman Odeberg. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
No questions. I'll wait to hear from the public.
Alderwoman Keys.
No questions, thank you.
No questions now. I'll wait to hear from the public. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody speaking on resolution 188?
We have in opposition Ms. Annie Rice.
Oh, all right. Ms. Rice, will you raise your right hand and you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may proceed. You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman. Wanted to speak just on 188 today because we have given about 6 hours of public testimony. We have given lots of written correspondence, letters from various coalition members, dozens of organizations representing thousands of St. Louisans that have asked for this process to be made better. This process was meant to give the public a meaningful opportunity to give input on this surveillance technology, and I think you fumbled the ball. The use plans still do not contain the descriptions that would allow for real understanding. And did anyone talk to their constituents about these really important hearings that were happening and help them understand what the process was supposed to be? You may have, and I may not have seen it, so if you did, I apologize. But we're continuing to reiterate that these plans do not meet the legal requirements. The resolutions contain inaccurate language, such as declaring the mugshot recognition technology as not facial technology, which SLMPD has agreed that it is facial recognition technology, and wish that you would change data retention policies that are and will affect people's lives right now. The warnings our coalition gave about the Trump administration overreach have come to pass. Anything that SLMPD has will be used against our most vulnerable populations and those of us who stand up for their rights. You have testimony in your inboxes from the Missouri Immigration Policy Coalition about current effects. I'm sure that you have seen the reports of ICE and DHS out in the community, picking up members of our community as we speak. You could have asked the police how often they use data that's older than 2 days, older than 5 days, older than 10 days. You could have asked for changes in the data retention policies based on that. We could have asked whys and effectiveness. We could have said how many arrests, how many convictions come from the use of technologies. We still haven't gotten numbers on personnel costs. So there's no way to make a reasonable judgment about whether the financial investment of the city is yielding the intended results. So we're still at a point where we have to fully disagree with every single one of these resolutions and ask that you do better. There is process laid out in the ordinance to take more time to get this right. I understand you're coming to the end of session, but the process was built out in a way by the request of the SLMPD to give opportunity for that back and forth. It's frustrating to be at this point. We appreciate public testimony. Wish we could have had it last week or 2 weeks ago. It seems like these are going forward regardless at this point, and just pretty disappointed that the process has not worked as intended. So we are not against all surveillance technology, and the folks that are putting out that narrative are completely wrong. That is, we have never said do not use surveillance technology at all in our neighborhoods and our communities. We've asked for reasonable limits, we've asked for disclosure, we've asked for reasonableness and privacy protections. That's been the idea from the beginning. Because over-policing will hurt us all, particularly our most vulnerable, particularly in an authoritarian government and in potentially a state takeover. So, in opposition, please vote no. Thanks.
Next, we have in opposition Chris Wilcock.
Good afternoon.
Could you raise your right hand? Is there anybody else in the room? Are y'all speaking on the resolutions? Or y'all here for the jail? Okay. If you are, we're just going to do it all at once. If you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Just state your name and the ward you reside in. You may proceed.
Yes, I'm Chris Wilcox. I reside in Ward 14. And I would like to also stand in opposition to all of these these surveillance resolutions. I'd echo a lot of the points that Annie just raised about the risk of the use of this technology to further repress people who are at increased risk, particularly after the last week and in the near future. I would like to also emphasize that even if you were to take the intentions of the police department at its word that this is all internal and they're not going to be shared with federal authorities, it does not matter. If the data exists, it will be requested. If the data is taken, it will go to whoever wants it to enforce the law in whatever most repressive way that they want to do it. We've also talked previously about the many places that the information could be leaked. There is still no detailed discussion of how data is used and analyzed through the Real-Time Crime Center. It also does not specify how private cameras are used. The scope of the law, it didn't apply directly to requiring use plans for private cameras, but it does specify you need to know how they're going to be used, if they're going to be accepted by the police department and used. You know, there's an extensive network of cameras that are privately owned, it's often paid for by special taxing districts and used to, for example, enforce orders banishing people from the community. We know that these neighborhoods submit requests to the courts in order for making someone merely being seen in the neighborhood as an arrestable. And so we know that these surveillance are going to be used for all of those, and regardless of the board's intentions, it can and will be used by federal authorities to enforce against people who are vulnerable. And you know, this is the first time that we've reviewed these. These programs have been in place for 10 years. Many of them without any knowledge about them, such as the cell site simulator. Previous attempts have been made to disclose exactly how the St. Louis, how the Real-Time Crime Center works. The board can't plead ignorance anymore. This is the very final opportunity to ask further questions, to hold any kind of constraints on the police use of this technology, and so it accepts responsibility for everything that happens afterward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Sage Coram.
So I will, because I was kind of lenient, I just keep telling people to proceed, but when we get to the other resolution, since we did it on the other bill, I will have folks do 3 minutes, but just proceed for now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Dear committee members, my name is Sage. I'm here on behalf of the ACLU of Missouri. From the top, I do want to say that the task you have in front of you today is an important one. The use of surveillance technologies impact everyone in this room and everyone living in, traveling through, or visiting our region in a myriad of ways and layers. And what you have today is an opportunity to work a process that's intended to provide transparency and meaningful community participation in the approval of surveillance technologies, or the opportunity to pass these resolutions as they are without providing clarity to key questions or response to feedback from the past 2 months of hearings. With signals and actions coming from both our state and federal government for increased collaboration on immigration enforcement, the question of how long data is retained, as well as what these sharing agreements are, is at a critical juncture in our city. This is a moment where you have power and choice for increasing transparency around surveillance data in our city and region, how this is collected, stored, and shared, as well as the choice to limit potential harm. We've heard in previous testimony that there are errors that could be corrected to better support public understanding if time was taken for due diligence by this committee. These resolutions are back today because surveillance use plans weren't attached in adequate time. And Annie spoke to the fact that Resolution 187 currently contains inaccurate information, so that needs to be corrected as well. In considering these resolutions, we're specifically addressing these technologies for approval, but we're also setting a standard for future iterations of this approval process. I ask that the standard you set is reflective of the concerns raised over the course of public hearings and the risks inherent in storing mass amounts of surveillance data. There was great care, advocacy, and intention in the creation of this ordinance from both the community and many alders sitting in this committee, and this process should be utilized with the diligence in which it was created. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coram. That will be all.
All right, Alderman, any members, did I ask for questions? Any people online?
No.
Okay, I'll just go through the list again, just in case if I didn't, in line of seniority. Alderman Odenberg, do you have any questions? Alderwoman Clark Hubbard? No questions. Alderwoman Keys?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, I will, no questions. I do want to just make a comment. I think I mentioned this at one of the last hearings around this resolutions. I know there has been, I think from the community members that continue to show up, appreciate you all for showing up. And I know there's been a lot of work put into this legislation because, I worked with you all on it in countless meetings. And I know it is not perfect. Even as a sponsor of the original, or not original, but the one that passed, Mr. Kennedy was the original sponsor, and there's been a lot of work to get us here. It is not perfect, and I think there's always going to be opportunity to make things better with this being kind of the first iteration of legislation. Maybe, we need to look at it and come back. I know the communication hasn't, been great. That's why we had to bring this resolution back. I appreciate the chairman for talking with me and me sharing the frustrations of the kind of lack of notice and time. So we held it on the floor, and it has not still been voted on, and we had to bring these back. But and also appreciate my colleagues on this committee for not only supporting the ordinance, but I know there has been some pushback behind the scenes with you and some of the colleagues here to try to get it right. So I'm just hopeful that, this is, again, we're in a lot better spot because we actually now have a ordinance where we can just be aware and transparent of the technology. I do think there's some improvement that we can make, but nothing is perfect. And I look forward to working with the department, my colleagues, and continue to stay committed to the community to try to fix some hiccups that may have occurred. But with that, Alderman, you're recognized on Resolution 188.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the committee. We, have spent many hours discussing this, and at this point, I would just ask for your favorable consideration.
All right. There was is there a motion to pass Resolution 188?
Second.
With the do pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Odenberg. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez. Alderman Aldrich.
Aye.
Chair Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Odenberg. Alderwoman Velasquez. We have 4 aye votes.
All right. With 4 aye votes, you have passed Resolution 188 with a do pass recommendation. Alderman, you are recognized on 190.
Thank you. Resolution 190, basically the same story. We passed this through committee a couple weeks ago. There was that same issue where it was on the SLMPD's website. There was some delay getting it onto the actual Board of Aldermen website, so we pulled it back, wanting to make sure that everyone had an opportunity and ample time to look at the use plan on the Board of Aldermen website. And with that, I ask for your favorable consideration.
All right. I'm just going to start with the public first and then come back to my colleagues. That's okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on Resolution 190?
We have none.
All right. Any questions from my colleagues, starting with Alderman Odenberg, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys? No questions. Alderman, you are recognized on Resolution 190.
All right. I renew my motion.
I make a motion that we pass Resolution 190 with a do pass recommendation. Previous roll.
Roll.
Seeing no objection, Resolution 190 has been passed with a do pass recommendation.
All right. Thank you. All right. I want to thank everyone for bearing in here. I know that some of us have been here since 9 or so this morning, but now we're going to move to discussion item number 1, which is the St. Louis Justice Center. Last week, we had a hearing where Dr. Mahdi came and others from the administration to talk about the situation at the Justice Center and the changes that are being made there. We knew that we were going to be running till 5 o'clock in that meeting. I indicated that I would certainly be having additional meetings to hear from the general public on that. So at this time, anyone who signed up to speak on the Justice Center is welcome to do so.
I know we had Mr. Doug Burris here to speak, but right now, Annie Rice?
Yes, I know Mr. Burris had to leave. He has a meeting regarding starting a program for veterans in the jail, so he had to step away. But Annie, please proceed.
Thanks. Apologize, I didn't introduce myself last time. Annie Rice, Arch City Defenders. I'm going to read a statement that was put out by 20 organizations on January 16th. This says, the decision by the Public Safety Board to quietly combine a hearing on the St. Louis Justice Center and the 18 lives lost under the inhumane conditions with discussions about surveillance use plans is a blatant disservice to the families impacted. Adding such a critical topic to another significant issue area without transparency undermines the importance of both matters. By failing to include public comment and refusing to meet our demand for a dedicated public hearing, the board has silenced the voices of those who deserve to be heard the most. Families and individuals directly affected by the CJC's conditions must have the opportunity to share their stories and highlight the devastating impact of this crisis. We demand a dedicated hearing where aldermen work with the organizers and advocates to organize this hearing to address this urgent and vital issue. Jail and city officials must be present, including the acting commissioner of CJC, the director of public safety, and any other relevant members of the administration. Anything less perpetuates the injustice and disregards the dignity of those who have suffered. Families and people impacted by the inhumane conditions at CJC must be given a platform to speak. This is not just a matter of accountability, but of basic human decency. This is signed by Freedom Community Center, Resist St. Louis, We Power, St. Louis Jobs with Justice, Arch City Defenders, MCU St. Louis, Faith for Justice, the Freedom Arts and Education Center, the Anti-Racist Organizing Committee, Action St. Louis, St. John's Church, the Beloved Community, Forward Through Ferguson, Movement for Black Lives, Empower Missouri, MacArthur Justice Center, CAPCAR, Climate Collective, Moho Justice Coalition, IFCLA, Organization for Black Struggle, the Palestinian Solidarity Committee, Missourians Against the Death Penalty, Missourians to Abolish the Death Penalty, Sierra Club Missouri Chapter, and Tenants Transforming Greater St. Louis. I read this statement because this demand was not met. I don't know if there is anyone to testify online. Folks were not made aware that this hearing was happening today. And so there needs to be another hearing in accordance with the demands. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone?
That will be all.
Signed up? All right, well, we'll certainly be having another hearing on this because I know that there are people who would be here to discuss this. I was frankly a bit concerned even before Ms. Rice read that letter, just that this not seeing the room as full as it usually would be for this sort of discussion. So we will certainly be doing so in the future. And with that, do we have any announcements? We've already excused members, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Previous roll. Hearing no objection, we stand adjourned.